friends, remember this? However, you can definitely achieve it just by using, some glazes. Well, fuck. Making a continuous and professional point of being an idiot who speaks before he thinks, I did indeed in a recent video promise you that you could do panel modulation by hand. I hinted in that video at just how slow it can be, but I wanted to provide some kind of illustration for that because a lot of people asked about it after I posted an example picture. So we're gonna sit and do a little talky-walky through panel modulating on vehicles by hand today. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's a really cool highlighting effect that produces a super funky, distinct and noticeable kind of finish, but it is normally something you do with an airbrush and quite a bit slower when you don't. Okay, so to start out with, if you look here, you can see at the top of the panels I'm dark and I'm fading down to light each time. So I'm trying to keep this mostly consistent, so I'm fading towards light at the bottom of each panel, starting dark at the top of each panel. It's pretty important that you keep that consistency through the look, but there will be a few areas where this doesn't make sense. Like you can see on the shoulder here, I've gone bottom to top. That's because the front of the shoulder pad wants to have that same clash against the side of it. So with the front being bottom to top, it makes more sense that way. So we're going to look at this right hand side next. But before we do that, I want to talk you through my palette. So I've got my base color here, which I, thin down a touch. And then I've got a first highlight colour, which in this case is some Artist's acrylic ultramarine. And I'm going to make a really, really fine glaze out of that using some of my painter's milk. You can see just how fine that glaze is. Okay, so it definitely builds up, but it's pretty chill. And then from there, we're also going to want a white glaze that we can use as a mix. And the reason I pre-mix both of these as a glaze is just so that I don't have to then rethin every time I want to lighten. You can see here, this is my first highlight colour that I'm mixing. Okay, so to start out with, what I'm doing here is that first highlight colour that I mixed, the ultramarine. I'm just going to start glazing it towards the front of those panels. I'm going to have to build up a lot of glaze here. This is going to take quite a while. It's probably going to be about 10 coats every procedure, so every time we change colour. That's a lot of what makes it really, really slow. So we're just starting out with heading for the fronts or the bottoms of each of those panels, as you've already seen demonstrated on the right hand side of the piece, and also just finishing off this half complete piece at the same time. We just build up layers and layers and layers, as I said. And it's pretty important here to also sort of tidy up as you go. You can see there, just in one of the little nooks and crannies, I just painted a little bit of pure ultramarine where I just sort of scuffed up and messed up a little bit, and tidying up as you go is really going to help you sort of continue to be able to visualize things here. So it really will help. This is going to be the longest video I show of the procedure as well. And you're seeing me apply the most quotes here. We will skip through a lot quicker, but you can see that light to dark difference starting to build up. Starting to look tasty. It's very subtle at this point. It's going to start looking a lot less subtle as we get all those coats on though. Okay, so now you can see as I'm sort of spinning it around, the light to dark difference is starting to appear. But what we need to do now is start just blending back into that base colour. So we take the exact base colour and we just start glazing backwards now. And again, this is going to take quite a few coats, maybe not 10 because you are starting from a sort of glazed, already faded edge, but maybe a good 5 it's going to take to sort of build this up and just fade it back. And this is one of those situations where I would say it's important to have pre-mixed colours. That's why I showed you my palette first, so you could see me planning my pre-mixed colours before I started. Okay, so you can see now once that's glazed back into the base colour, it looks a lot smoother. And it really is quite a drastic change how much smoothness you get from glazing forward then back. Now we're going into the highlight glazes, and this is going to be more of the same. We're going to do exactly what we did in the last procedure, so there will be less footage here. But we are using that lighter, that highlight colour now that I mixed. Again, you saw this at the start of the video on the palette. I pre-mixed this. I already decided how light I wanted my highlight to go. So I pre-mixed this. And we're just applying it in exactly the same way as we did with the first highlight. just glazing towards the fronts and the tops, and just continuing to build up and build up and build up. So you can see now, because this has got white in it, it's quite chalky and quite stark. So we need to now go back into that first highlight and again blend back down. So this is again a repeat of the previous procedure, but instead of blending back down into the base color now, we're blending back down into the first highlight. And that's why big panels like this really work well for this, because you've got a lot of space to show that transition, a lot of space to create that gradient. That's why it looks really, really nice. This is amazing for things like Custodes tanks, even Space Marine tanks. Okay, so after building all of that up now, I'm just going to take a few seconds to just spin it around for you. You can see things are in general just looking a hell of a lot smoother now. I can still sit and refine and work this a bit more if I want to, but because I'm going to battle damage it, I'm okay with it. Okay, so now this is the first time we're using full thickness paint in the whole procedure. I've mixed just something a bit lighter than my panel highlight, and I'm just starting to run in some edge highlights here. Sometimes obviously you will have to run these in, you won't be able to side brush them, you'll have to sort of freehand them off the tip of your brush. If you run them a bit fat, if they're a bit too chunky, just come back in with your base colour, slim them down just like that, nice and simple. Okay, then I'm going to add just a touch more lightness, and I really do mean a tiny bit more lightness to that highlight colour, and this is where I start to put in that battle damage, those chips. Often you can do your chips with light and dark and, you know, place a highlight underneath each one, but because there's so many panels and they're so big here, I think just scratching in with some light colour is just a bit faster, a bit more effective. If you were really trying to push this to the best of your ability, you'd probably want to do your chips in light and dark. But I think for purposes of what we're doing here, this is the way to achieve it. It also really helps smoothen up those gradients because it creates a bit of visual fuzz, so you can't quite focus on them as much. Okay, so once you've got all of those highlights and scratches and edge highlights and all that kind of thing in, those panels are done. It's pretty straightforward. And, you know, when you're just doing a few panels like that, it's also kind of chill, kind of nice. However, I did decide to finish the entire miniature for you, so we're not quite done yet because I'm going to show you some Lazy Susan footage now of how it looked when I completed the entire miniature using that highlighting method and then did all the basing and all the other stuff as well. And I warn you in advance, this took a long time. So what do you think, folks? Get at me in the comments and let me know. Obviously, I understand that because I've done this by hand and because I, well, maybe reached a bit of a patience threshold at some point, it is not as smooth as when you do it with an airbrush, and I totally get that. To be honest, that's why I personally would recommend doing it with an airbrush. However, this kind of slightly rougher look that panel modulating by hand produces is pretty sweet for kind of integrating into more of a battle damage, scuffed and roughed kind of look, and I actually think that it maybe has a separate place. Normal airbrush panel modulation is very good for producing super clean, super cool and super noticeable kind of vehicles, but maybe this is what you want to lean on when you want that same kind of feel but more in a battle damage direction. So if you agree with me, let me know. Of course, if you liked this video, folks, you can hit that thumbs up button to let me know that you liked it, and that will make me feel very good, but it won't make me feel nearly as good as I will feel if you subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so that you can see what's coming up in the future. If you want to support me as I take this full time as my career, then please feel free to check out my Patreon. There is a link in the description below to that, along with all of my social medias, and I do have Patreon tiers starting from as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. I hope you found the video fun and informative. See you in the next one.